I drove out to New Jersey, into Congressman Payne's district, to find out what moved him to take on the vulture funds.
I woke up this morning and got myself a gun.
He told me that thinking about the vultures seizing money from the starving put an image in his head he couldn't shake.
You know, it reminded me of that picture, you know, that Pulitzer Prize picture of the vulture following a child, was just waiting for the child to die. The photographer that took the picture actually committed suicide. It just conjured up people just taking blood out of a country's lifeline.
The vultures have already sucked up about $1 billion in aid meant for the poorest nations, according to the World Bank in Washington. The money for debt relief comes from those buildings over there, the World Bank and the IMF, and from the U.S. and British taxpayer. But before it can get to the poor people of Zambia, it somehow ends up right in this building, the offices of Debt Advisory International, and its principal, Mr. Sheehan. You remember Mr. Sheehan. Goldfinger. He'd rather not talk about his business.
He failed to show up when the U.S. Congress wanted to ask him about the bribery allegations, so we thought we'd bring the questions right to him.
Hello? Hi. Is Mr. Sheehan in? We just wanted to ask Mr. Sheehan.
Sorry, Mr. Sheehan is not here.
He's not here. Is he in the country? We just want to ask Mr. Sheehan why he didn't appear before Congress to answer allegations of bribery of Zambian officials. Did they call you? Did it?
Right away.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Before Secret Service.
I guess Mr. Sheehan doesn't like visitors, huh?
No, not unexpected. Not when it comes down to seeing cameras and stuff. I don't think so.
Doesn't like Congressman either.
I guess not.
Mr. Sheehan faces more serious congressional hearings later this year in front of John Conyers' Judiciary Committee.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
Come on up.
So do you get bigger suites now that you're a chairman?
Yes.
In the meantime, Chairman Conyers is pointedly counting on President Bush to back action against the vultures at the G8 summit.
I'm absolutely counting upon him to do the right thing.
Back in Britain, MPs of all parties are counting on Gordon Brown to change the law.
It's a legal loophole, really, and I think he can close that. That's what he should be doing. He should get to grips with what is clearly an exploitation of the current system and goes against the spirit of the G8.
So will the president and the incoming prime minister do the right thing or do nothing to protect Africa's poorest from the vultures?
Greg Palast reporting. He joins us in studio now. Right now, where does it all stand, Greg? Who has the power and the damage that's being done?
It's all up to George Bush right now. And this is what is driving the other members of the G8, that is the incoming Prime Minister of Britain, Gordon Brown, has made this like #1 priority. I mean, you have to understand, debt relief for Africa is real serious business for Europe. And about half of the money for aid to Africa is being sucked up by these vultures who are seizing the funds. It all comes down to George Bush. It's also driving Congressman Conyers crazy. And he's basically said, look, if Bush doesn't do the right thing, as he said it, this is the next investigation. Look, he just made a big splash with investigating the prosecutor firings. That ain't done yet. But as soon as that's done, he moves right into vultures if Bush doesn't act. Now, what's the deal with Bush? See, under U.S., what's happening is these vultures are seizing the money from U.S. bank accounts principally. And George Bush of these nations, these poor nations, in other words, they're given money to buy AIDS drugs. They have resources to, for educate. It's basically earmarked for education AIDS. They're sucking up the AIDS money. Bush can put a stop to it tomorrow morning. No one can sue a foreign government in the United States without the approval of the U.S. government, in particular, the President of the United States. It's under the separation of powers clause of our Constitution.
And what did Bush respond to, Conyers?
Well, you know, it's been he does that, you know, I missed school that day, I don't know what's going on, you know, deer in the headlights, I'll check it out, I'll do something about it. Now, as you know, we had this dramatic situation with both Congressman Conyers, the chairman, a powerful chairman, and Don Payne, head of the Africa Committee, two powerful cats, were both heading to the White House for a meeting, both of them listening to Democracy Now! They both had the same idea. We don't care what's on the agenda with the president. The vultures, is what we have to talk about. It's these billions of dollars. And as Conyers said, until they heard the Democracy Now! Report, and a lot of members of Congress listened, by the way, to this program, they had no idea that the money was being sucked up. They were voting for billions of dollars for Africa, and they didn't know that Bush's friends. Now, when I say Bush's friends, you have to understand the biggest single vulture fund, the biggest predator is operations owned by a guy named Paul Singer, who's the #1 donor for George Bush and the Republican Party in New York. He's also the big fundraiser. He's raising $10 million for Rudy Giuliani. This isn't a sidelight for this guy. This is the only way he makes money. So George Bush has to know that his big money is basically coming from kickbacks from money taken from aid for Africa. If he didn't know before, Conyers and Payne, after hearing Democracy Now!, put it right in his face. And the reason is they didn't want the president to say, I don't know, it's a lower level thing. The president knows. And the G8 members personally, when I say G8, these are the world's leaders. Chancellor Merkel of Germany.
Did Bush do something about it at the G8 summit?
I think he hid in the in the boys' room. Remember, he didn't come out when they were supposed to have some discussions. You know, so it's been this kind of duck and run operation.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but we'll continue to follow the story. Greg Palast is on the case, investigative reporter with the BBC. His latest book is called Armed Madhouse: From Baghdad to New Orleans, Sordid Secrets and Strange Tales of a White House Gone Wild. That does it for today's broadcast. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Birch, Shufra Dukadush, John Hamilton, Elizabeth Press, Arm Mate, Jen Utz, Angelique Kamat, Mike DeFilippo, Nick Marsilio, Miguel Noguera are our engineers. Special thanks also to Becca Staley, Hugh Grant, John Randolph, Jerome Bourgeois, Laura Chipley, Tori Townsend, Nicole Salazar, Samantha Chambly. Our website is democracynow.org. You can sign up there for our daily headlines and news stories and media alerts. That's democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us for another edition of Democracy Now!